Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to do a little different with looking at some more trading cards. We have the complete Babylon 5 trading cards. I'm not quite sure what series this is. Well, I know what Babylon 5 is, but I don't know what series of trading cards these are. And we are looking at the Witchblade premium trading cards. I'm not quite sure if this is just the TV movie, if it's the first season, the second season, or all of it. I don't know. I was recently at a convention, and along with the Thunderbirds one, I showed off in the other video. I picked these ones up. I'm quite excited to get these open and take a look at them. So for those who aren't familiar, Witchblade is a comic book series by Top Cow about a New York homicide detective who finds and becomes the bearer of a mystical artifact. In the early 2000s, I think maybe 2002ish, it was adapted into a short-lived TV series with Yancy Butler playing Sarah, the lead of the series. And these are obviously some trading cards on it. Babylon 5, if you're not that familiar with it, is a sci-fi series from the mid-noughties, the mid-90s even, and it aired pretty much alongside Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It was about a space station which acted as a alien council, almost as such, with the various races coming together to discuss politics of the galaxy. I've done a very poor description of it, but it was an excellent series. If you haven't seen it and you're a fan of sci-fi shows, I'd highly recommend checking it out. So without further ado, let's get these opened and take a look. So let's do Babylon 5 first. So for those who have seen Babylon 5, the obvious question is, which did you prefer, Babylon 5 or Deep Space Nine? I know they both get a lot of comparisons given their nature of the show. Personally, I think I preferred Babylon 5 overall. Don't get me wrong, I think Deep Space Nine is brilliant, but I do have a fondness for Babylon 5. I even got it on Blu-ray quite recently. So here we have the Babylon 5 trading cards. We get the bio from the TV movie The Gathering, and then we get some cards for we get a card for The Gathering, which was essentially the pilot episode. Then we get a summary, a checklist for season 1, which was dubbed Signs and Portents. And we get some cards for the various episodes. Backs obviously contain a brief bio of the episode. These are certainly very different to what I was expecting. Instead of being like a shot or a single shot on each card, they're almost like a collage of each episode, which is quite interesting. Some of these are frictioned together. We get our bio for season 2 and episode summary. Yeah, without spoiling anything for Babylon 5, I think a lot of the storylines, or the key storyline, which followed through the first few seasons, disturbingly still reflects real life politics going on today, very much so. I think one of the key things here with this series was the makeup for the aliens. There was, not necessarily just sort of the bumpy forehead that you had with Star Trek. They were full on costumes with some really interesting designs and makeup throughout. Don't get me wrong, some of them are very much the bumpy forehead of sort of Star Trek infamy, but I don't want to dismiss Star Trek's prosthetic work. Some of it's truly amazing, but I do feel that Babylon 5 had the slight edge to the prosthetics. Yeah, season 4. It's certain that Babylon 5 and the Star Trek shows certainly shared a lot of their cast. Walter Koenig played a recurring villain in Babylon 5. That one almost looks like an X-Files shot. And then we get a couple of checklist cards. So that's our Babylon 5 cards. They were quite nice. Very different to what I was expecting. You know, I was expecting that usual still from an episode rather than the collages we got for each episode, which I think is different and quite a fun little touch. And then we have our Witchblade. I really enjoyed the Witchblade TV series in the early noughties. I mean, I was rewatching it recently and it still holds up really well, but it has that problem of being a comic book show in the early noughties, where it never has a great deal to do with its original counterpart. It's, you know, this is in a time before even Smallville really started airing. It's that stage where producers and studios were wanting to do the comic book stuff, but they were reluctant to lean into the comic book attributes. So this ended up being more of a paranormal cop show than an actual comic book adaptation. But it was enjoyable nonetheless. Unfortunately, it was cancelled primarily, I understand, to Yancey Butler's addiction habits and her entering into rehab. So we get our character shots. I always felt the depiction of Ian Nottingham in this series was a little off, especially with the beard. Then we get some stills from the movie, which was essentially the extended pilot episode. It was, you know, a TV movie, but it was the sort of backdoor pilot, which I think this was TNT in the States originally, and you know, from what I understand, I think TNT did a lot of their shows with backdoor pilot movies in the early noughties. The show depicted the Witchblade as more of like a suit of armor, whereas you know, in the comic books, it's more like an alien tentacle object. You Google it and you'll understand what I mean there. But you know, the comic books, there's no denying, is very much a 90s comic book about a female lead drawn and written by men. There was a reboot which is probably about a year old now, which has been really, really good. That's been I've been really enjoying that. It's a little less objectified, which is nice, you know. We're now into our episode stills. So I think this might just be season 1, given the number of stills for each episode. I always felt that was the closest shot we got in the series to what the Witchblade looked like in the comics. It certainly never looked like the sort of Joan of Arc medieval armour. And I'd certainly be very interested to see how a studio would adapt this for a live action audience in today's there was also a anime series which I only recently watched, and if you can get past the really disturbing objectification there, it's actually a really enjoyable series. It's essentially a story of a mother and her daughter. Got some backstage pictures. Some nice shots of and that is our base set for the Witchblade cards. So there we have some more trading cards looked at. I'm glad I got both of these. I definitely really enjoyed the Witchblade series, and it's cool to have some merchandise for that. And the Babylon 5 ones were different to what I was expecting, and I quite enjoyed seeing something a little different from what I was expecting. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Until next time, stay safe and be kind to everyone.